Jackie, you good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have a thumbs up from upstairs. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's City Council workshop. Workshop is a time for council to discuss to have certain presentations as well as any agenda items that council wants to discuss before our meeting begins. And possibly, if there is time, we will have an executive session item as well. We would ask if you would please silence your cell phones. And before we get into our workshop presentation, I'll ask council if there are any agenda items that you want to talk about before our meeting today. Very good. All right, Jeff King and friends are with us today. We're going to be talking about the 23rd Avenue PUD, and we welcome you all here with us.
Good morning, thank you, and thank you for meeting with us. The 23rd Avenue PUD, since it was actually giving first reading back in April, has been somewhat reimagined, or it's similar but improved. We have worked diligently with the staff to make some changes that we wanted to present to you today, which we believe will just enhance the project and make it much more desirable for the city. With that said, I know we're a little limited on time. Mark Timms, designer here, is ready to walk through and just give you an overview with all the slides of what we've changed, and then of course we're here to answer any questions, get any feedback that we can.
Good morning, everyone. We really appreciate this opportunity. I'm Mark Timms with the Garvin Design Group. I'm architect for this project. Perfect, thank you. I was about to ask that. Advance too?
Should.
Yes. I'm going to run through this quickly. I know you're short on time. There are a lot of slides here, but we want to focus on the site improvements, the overall precinct and campus of the plan, as well as the 3D imagery that'll really give you a taste of what we're looking at here. Obviously, the PUD in its format remains the same. We're doing alley swaps from the coastal site down to the south, second row site down to the south in the same format as the prior PUD format, as you can see here. In terms of improvement, it's the same three center blocks. Things that will be a little different here, the third row site will no longer be a parking garage as it was in the prior PUD. We are not in need of a parking garage because this is a sister property to Ocean 22, which has been here for now 12 years running. This will be a Hilton Grand Vacation flag property. Next door, we are able to capitalize on a design strategy we did 12 years ago with the garage. It is able to host up to 5 more floors. We're going to put 2 more floors on this for this project and build capacity. So we will have surface parking on the third row and surface parking on the second row. The second row predominantly valet controlled. We'll get into that a little bit. Both sites are really targeted for future development as well. That gives us a lot of flexibility as this precinct matures to allow for future growth on those 2 sites as well. This shows the greenscape as prior. We are carrying the PUD improvements all the way out to 17, so we're really looking at an oceanfront to 17 improvement for the entire precinct, capitalizing on what we already did for Ocean 22 and extending that north. And this covers that PUD scope. We'll get into that a little bit more in the actual presentation slide. This just shows the proximity of the garage to the new site, just like the old site next door, where that site is capitalizing on those proximity of spaces. We're adding a total of 320 new spaces to this overall development for the property. The capacity of the tower, this shows the tower up front. This is also a laser pointer, I'm guessing, maybe not. On the tower on the front, what we wanted to highlight with this is we really analyzed closely with the staff and with our team the pedestrian and vehicular movement of this area. It is such a prime area for future growth. The 23rd Avenue being enhanced and becoming a true avenue down to the beach because of its width as opposed to, say, 22nd. It is an opportunity for great connection back to the old Myrtle Square Mall property and all the way back to, all the way back to the convention center site when that is developed. This could be a major thoroughfare. So that street end being 80 feet wide really gave us an opportunity to look at that as a true threshold from the inner blocks to the Grand Strand. To do that, we really want to capitalize on parking down 23rd Avenue. So we've looked at ways to maximize parking from the boulevard all the way back to 17, focused on pedestrian safety first. the more congested we get towards the oceanfront, we really wanted to make sure our drop-off and the boulevard and that intersection really interplay well for the guest experience and pedestrian experience being first and foremost. To do that, we've located ADA parking in that first block of the PUD improvements with major intersection improvements. So we'll go into that a little bit deeper. We have 58 new spaces on the 23rd in that area coming back down to replace. So that is really a key part of this, and a major thoroughfare and avenue development you'll see in the renderings as we get further into this. Crosswalks obviously are key in that design. As we dig into this a little bit further, we are, similar to the prior PUD, really trying to enhance that intersection. We know with the existing boardwalk entry and exit for the vehicles coming into that play, into this intersection, but a widened and ADA, you can see the ADA spaces here in the upper right image, directly across to a truly pedestrian safe space once you get from there to the beach. We are not pulling our drop-off entrance and exit into the North Park. The prior PUD was, and so I'll kind of walk through as to why that's not happening. Next. So zooming in, you can see we are doing a similar strategy as what the prior PUD did, capitalizing on the alley to the south rather than the alley to the north. By doing this, we can keep cars out of that North Park, truly giving that as a public space, a public beach access to the beach, and wrapping that around the front of the ocean front of this as an L-shaped park that will enhance that entire district as a street-end thoroughfare at the end of 23rd. We are also able to widen our drive to 3 aisles deep. We're modeling this after Ocean Enclave, which is 16th Avenue, the project we did with Hilton Grand Vacation. That is a much wider, much deeper, with 3 lanes underneath the building. We're able to stage 3 for parking. A 4th is there for a drive-through, a bypass. So the valet, these properties have enhanced valet management. Through that, we're able to really stage wonderfully 12 cars underneath the building with a bypass lane in full effect, and we've pulled it away from the intersection where all that interplay between vehicular and pedestrian is so tricky. We're pulling that south and keeping it as an exit on our property rather than going into the North Park. To dig into the floor plan, it's operating a little bit like Ocean 22, where we have the lobby entrances into the ground floor, but the 2 pools, one indoor, one outdoor. One's a flexible indoor-outdoor transition space. A nice pool bar. You can see that in the green on the south end, looking back over those wonderful views across the pools to the northeast. And of course, we have our pedestrian access now capable of moving from the North Park against the building and back to the South Park without ever crossing a vehicle. So that is part of that plan. The same thing happens on Ocean 22 right now. So we're able to give options for the pedestrians and the vehicles to really make sure they can manage each other's space effectively. We will have an additional elevator on the far west side, just above that stair on the left side of the slide. That is for sales tours only. It will just go to the 2nd floor, so we're also able to enhance and keep a lot of different things moving effectively, efficiently. That way we're avoiding backup throughout this building. We have located the service side of this building on the south side of our building, opposite Ocean 22. So we're consolidating. We will not have any service or utility facing that North Park. It's going to be a very public face to that North Park. The south side is now concentrating both service operations for laundry and trash back over to the garage, which is where it's taking place now on Ocean 22. We're able to capitalize on the capacity of that in the compactor that's in the garage. We're not adding anything new other than the trips from this tower over to the garage. I'm going to run through these upper floor plans. We can certainly go back to them, but I think for what the purpose is today, we will have lobby check-in on the 2nd floor, a wonderful north facing of this building. We'll get to units per floor. These are enhanced products. This is going to be a wonderful for the suites here. We're elevating these even above the Ocean Enclave and Ocean 22 amenity level, and we're going to, the real plan that starts to jump out is on the 21st floor, which is this floor. We're starting to terrace the building back, and on that floor we're going to create an upper amenity level. It's unprecedented here, where we're actually creating bars, open terrace, a pool deck, open to the sky. You'll see that when we start to get into the 3D imagery. But it really helps the scale of our building from the ocean side step down because we're pulling the building way back to penthouse suites above this floor level. Above this floor level, we'll now have 3, and you can see them tapering back. That does a lot of things for us. Obviously, it gives us an elevated product on these upper floors, gives us amenity floor, but it also reduces shadow on the beach because we pulled the west face of this, or the east face of this building, considerably back. It takes our average height in this building way down on the beach, and so we actually cast a shorter shadow than Ocean 22. These are the elevations. I'll scoot through these real quick. We can come back to them because I think the 3D imagery will be what will play out most. This is a diagram simply illustrating that stepped back play of the elevation. On the left side is the ocean, on the right side is the boulevard. You can see how we're pulling back to create that upper level terrace for the amenity level, thereby reducing the shadow play on the other side, but also allowing for this amenity to have fantastic views out across the Atlantic. Maybe I'm not pointing in the right direction. There we go. This is a slide illustrating that shadow just for your case. On the left, in the center of the 2 towers that are in the center is Ocean 22. You can see the Ocean 23, as we're effectively calling it today. That name may change depending on Hilton actually gives it a name. Ocean 23, reduced shadow, but you can start to see that pool deck amenity sitting there. When we move down to the beach level, you'll see how that terracing really scales the building down on the beach. So this one I want to illustrate a couple of things. This is a night shot, obviously, from out over the ocean front. But you can see that spine of light goes back to 17. This is really where we see an opportunity for an urban intervention of pedestrian linkage from the really beyond 17 all the way down to this wide 80-foot promenade of a park just before you enter the beach. So as you can see, that illustrates the lighted path from 17 down the enhanced sidewalks, landscape zones, all the way through the ADA parking on that second row, straight across the enhanced intersection there on the boulevard to the park. And that park then wraps around and kind of ties into the beautiful dunescape that's along the beach with a park in that area as well. This is something where we see that good public-private intersection, that public-private partnership of this space being public to the private of the resort. And obviously linking that in with 22 with its south alley as well. So we get good circulation all the way around in between these buildings and out to the beach. This building in the center with its center alley does tie into what that second row alley swap would produce is a mid-block pedestrian link to the Withers Drive parking that's along Withers Drive, coming straight through that pedestrian zone in the center of the second row, straight into the crosswalk into this alley between Ocean 22 and Ocean 23. So this is really the illustration of how that tower being terraced back plays into the beach. You can see how 22 now terraces downward to 23 and then downward to the boardwalk. It really fits in quite nicely in scale. This is 228 units in this project. 27, 28, we're still working on that one, but that'll be our max unit count. But these are all enhanced large units from 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, and the penthouse units above. And this is from the north side, looking back. Now we want to come into the boulevard. So here we are as we are driving in. The entrance drive to our drop-off is just to the right. You can see the rear of that car. We see the lobby spaces on the glass levels just above the canopy level. We're looking at the south alley. The north alley is to the left. And they would loop in and come back out from within the building. You can see the crosswalks integrated. Here it is, seeing the 2 towers together and the support building across the street. Over from 23rd. So you can see the proximity of these parking spaces within the same distances as the parking garage for our tower, within that 300 plus feet. There are 28 brand-new parking spaces. There's 58 total. So it's a really great towards the whole length of 23rd Avenue. This is where we see that real spine of pedestrian activity of parking and moving straight to the beach in a safe manner through the park. And just to give a view of the penthouse level, this is what we're up on top of the penthouse level with its pool and its bar. The bar is tucked up underneath to the right, underneath the units. You can see the pool deck with great views of the Atlantic and the 3 levels of presidential or penthouse units above that. There'll be cabanas, obviously, other amenities up there. And this is the south alley, as I'm looking at it from the, essentially standing where the enhanced pedestrian south alley swap between the second row would lead you into the south alley pedestrian public alley to the beach as well. Now we've moved back to the north. I'm coming down that pedestrian spine on 23rd, and this is my entrance to the public park. You can see public access beach signage there on the left of this slide. The park is wide open avenue, a great threshold. I have arrived at the Grand Strand type effect here. But the building itself also presents a very public face. These are the lobby levels, the different amenities, the the kids' lounge. There's a wonderful porch that you'll see in a moment overlooking the beach. And the units above. This is it during the daytime. And now we've kind of come through the park. We're still standing in the park on the east side, looking back at the pool level below. It's a 2-story pool height beyond. This is the porch I was referring to. It's an upper level terrace that's tied to the lobby activities of the building. It's a 2-story lobby that kind of comes down a staircase inside from the check-in that's on the true second level down to the first elevated slab, which is the terrace level and the deck level you see here. And the pools and bars are down below that in on where you see the orange in the center. There's an outdoor pool to the left. There's an indoor pool up under the building here, all with doors that open up for access to day. The glass, the long glass is their support sales area, and it will be long-term units on that floor as well. And this is it during the day. And this just gives you the whole overall campus look and feel of this. So you can see the spine of activity, the spine of pedestrian movement down 23rd with parking on both sides. Our 2 parking lots, both valet controlled. Primarily the second row will be valet, the third row, both. They will be secured parking. We are adding, and this shows the 2 additional levels on top of the garage. Already integrated, this model has that in it. And of course the tower in the distance.
Can we stop on this slide one
Please,
second?
absolutely.
Can you show us on this slide where the parking garage was going to be?
So you see the large left to right parking lot that's in line with the front face of the garage. It goes from 22nd to 23rd Avenue. That's where the garage was going to be. So now it is surface. It remains open for an opportunity for development as this precinct matures. Both second row does too. We still have 3 more levels we can add to the garage in the future. So there is an opportunity to work with the growth of this area because we planned for it 12 years ago by having the footings and structure capable of hosting 5 more levels.
And all of this parking is dedicated to this property, none of it is public?
Well, obviously, all the public improvement parking is all public. The parking within the parking lots is to manage the hotel. It is meeting our zoning requirement.
That question then brings a question.
Sure.
In the public right-of-way, how much of the parking there is the project dependent on being able to use? When all of that is public parking?
It's all public. None for the project. All of our parking is in the surface lots on second row, third row, and in the garage.
So the public parking on 22nd, 23rd, and Withers?
All of that's public. And 22nd and most of 23rd, there's some areas we'll enhance through this project on Withers, but most of Withers between 22nd and 23rd and a little bit south of 22nd, as well as 22nd Avenue, were enhanced through the Ocean 21st Avenue PUD when we did Ocean 22. So we'll pick that up and continue it and obviously carry it the full length of 23rd Avenue.
And with that said, the hotel itself, the amount of parking spaces required is within those parking lots.
Is correct. It is satisfied through the parking garage, 2 floors we're adding, and the 2 surface parking lots within the property of their private property.
Do you have in this design here anything planned for employee parking?
It's within the zoning factors as we're calculating. We have a surplus per our zoning right now of about 8 spaces beyond what is required under the zoning. And we're also hosting other entities in that garage per the prior PUD, the restaurant, a couple of other hosted tenants that aren't associated with either resort are already in the garage.
Yeah, on this subject, I just wanted to point out a couple of from a technical aspect of how the PUD has changed from the first reading. The setbacks are the same. The density's actually gone down from 256 to 228, 27, 28. Some of the big changes are the garage is no longer there. That was a concern for some of the neighbors coming up towards 17 at Planning Commission was the garage itself. We had already increased the setback for that, but now we're able to get rid of it altogether. That also saves, you can see in the center of where that garage would have been, those trees, that was a concern of a number of the neighbors as well. So that is one of the big gains by making this change and being able to use it, just add a couple floors to the other garage. But back to the parking question, yes, all the parking for the new project is on the private property and and while that garage does, River City, I think, has some parking in there from the prior PUD and stuff, the spaces that are being added, we're adding all the spaces that would be required, plus a few that would be, under current zoning for the new project. So we're not doubling up and using spaces that are already being used by somebody else. I just want to make sure that's clear.
That's true.
All the spaces required are being constructed. And along 23rd, I believe, there's 58 new spaces. There were 20 spaces that were public in the street end. We think the addition of this big L-shaped park, which is actually going to, in front of the ocean, kind of mirror the boardwalk and could hopefully eventually tie into that. But even with that, there's a net gain of 38 public spaces along, right there leading into that park, which was the thought behind it. Just wanted to get that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, this was, the next slide was just the same one you'd already seen, the night slide. So you're good to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In terms of next steps, this is for mayor and council. Since, as Jeff said, this came through first reading back, I think, in April. It was also associated with this was taking a property out of the 21st Avenue PUD, and then there was some alley swap ordinances that were also associated with this. So it's how comfortable are you with what you've seen today, whether to vote on this for second reading or to send it back to Planning Commission?
I'm good with that.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Jeff and your guys, December 10th, I think, is our next meeting, because there's only one more reading. We only have one meeting in November. That's the regular scheduled council meeting, is December the 10th.
So what's the question?
There is no question. I'm just letting you know that this will be up for
okay.
second
We'll
reading.
come up for second reading,
And
okay.
we'll have first reading. I think the alley swap will only receive first reading, so we may do that one, but I have to go back and check on that. That's also 2 readings. And then 21st Avenue PUD received first reading as well, the removal. I can get with
Not
you.
sure if the alley swap actually, I think the 21st PUD change did receive.
I think so.
I believe it did. I'm not 100%. The alley swap may actually be lagging one meeting behind.
That's what I said, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
The alley swap
I-
needs 2, 21st needs 1, and this one needs 1, so we'll coordinate.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you one. Okay.
Fox, before we move on, I want to ask council one more time if there are any questions, comments, or concerns before we proceed with this, since this is workshop.
This is keeping the same amount of oceanfront property for the city, right? And who will be responsible for the upkeep of those parks?
The staff has asked, and we put in language into the ordinance that we'll work out a maintenance agreement, because it may be actually to a standard that would be a little higher, that you know, we would be responsible for some of that. We'll have to work out an agreement with them.
Okay.
Anything else?
Good to me. That's good.
Okay.
This is
Thank
much
you very much.
better.
I'm sorry?
It's much better.
Thank you, we think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, guys.
I'm going to ask Meredith if she would come down. We had her towards the end of today's agenda to give us an update on the Hometown Hero Banner program. And since we have some time left in workshop, let's go ahead and hear her presentation.
Good morning.
Morning.
The Hometown Hero Banners is something that's been tossed around by the Military Appreciation Committee for a few years. Fox recently brought to our attention through something that the town of Creek did, and so it's kind of sparked it again, and looking into it, and it seems like a great project that we could begin at the beginning of 2022. We spoke with the Military Appreciation Committee about it. They're totally on board and ready to go, so I just wanted to give you an update on where we're at so far after speaking with a vendor, also looking at a national website for the Hometown program. Right now, we're kind of leaning toward designing our own, but getting things started. We wanted to keep you in the loop. So Hometown Hero Banners, there is a national initiative. There's a national website. It started in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Goose Creek, South Carolina does it. There's also some in the Syracuse, New York area where Fox saw it as well, and they look similar to that. And we view it as a great way to honor our veterans. I actually was just alerted by my mother-in-law this morning that we've been on Fox News the last week because they've been talking about how much Myrtle Beach loves their veterans. They're going to be doing a show at the Veterans Cafe, which is very exciting and a great way for us to be spotlighted. And this is a way for us to do it locally, also honoring, again, our local veterans. And also, we're just kind of tossing up. We're still looking into how exactly we want to do it. Do we want to include deceased and living? How we're going to do submissions, things like that. Those fine details are still kind of up in the air. But the banners would look something similar to this. It could be one side or two. And anyways, we're still fine-tuning the details. So what we were thinking was we would begin with 100 banners. I've already spoken with Jeremy, and the resident or the people submitting them would pay for them through the portal that we currently use online. We were thinking it would be somewhere between the $75 to $100 each per banner. The family pays for the banner. It's on display beginning May 1st in honor of Military Appreciation Month in the city of Myrtle Beach, and it stays on display through Veterans Day. Our crews will put them up, so we absorb that cost. And then the family gets them when they take them down. They can keep them. They can come pick them up at City Hall. We do have to upgrade the type of springs that we use because of the wind and because they'll also be on display through hurricane season. And those springs are about $175 each, which is covered by the city. Depending on the location, we want to either put them in Market Common or along Harrelson Boulevard or both. So that's something that we're working out right now. And it also depends on our response. Again, I think we're gonna do 100 just for the starter year, but we'll see how it goes. The 30 by 60 would go along Harrelson Boulevard, and the 24 by 48 would go along Market Common. At first, Farrell Parkway was our #1 location choice. It made sense, especially because the parade is there, but we have a tree issue, and we'd have to cut back a lot of the trees because some of them would be blocked. Actually, about a third of them would be blocked by tree branches. Public Works has already investigated that. So again, we're thinking about $100 per banner per family. They'll have to send in a high-resolution image. We're going to have to work out with the Military Appreciation Committee, you know, is it first come, first serve? I think that's what makes the most sense. Again, it'll be on display May through November, so it makes sense for how much staff time is going to be put into this. They're going to have to stagger the installation process on the light poles, probably starting sometime in February or March, to make sure that they're not rushed to get them up with all their other workload that's going on. And again, the family gets to keep the banners. 24 by 48 are approximately $40. 30 by 60 are $65. That does not include shipping. And again, we provide the installation cost, we absorb that, and we're gonna cover the brackets as well. And that's it.
Personally, I think this is a great project. It really is. Actually, up in Albemarle, North Carolina, my father-in-law's father has one of these banners flying up there. So we have a picture of him standing in front of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
And so it's really nice, a way to honor our veterans and our military. So I think I'm fully on board with this.
And the committee loves it, and the price difference is because those brackets are so expensive. They're gonna last about 5 years, so it kind of helps us with the cost. And the ones that I've researched, those cities, they charge $100 per banner. And I don't know that they use the spring brackets. So we have that nicer bracket so that they last for a longer period of time. Again, I don't think we're gonna have any issues filling the banners. I think they'll probably fill within minutes. And this is a program we'll start, and we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it's something we can grow each year. So yeah.
Yeah, we need to find a veterans row.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration for these banners to be put on the boulevard
Yes,
and Highway 17?
we could do that.
We've talked about the boulevard.
Yes.
And maybe Kings Highway. We don't know the demand, we don't know what the demand's gonna be like. So we're trying to,
I'd just like for us to look at possibly the boulevard and
Yes.
Highway 17 as well.
The cost grew quickly with the 175 for the brackets, so I think we might start smaller and see how it goes and then keep going. One thing that the Military Appreciation Committee talked about that was important to them was honoring Jack Platt and having a banner on Ocean Boulevard, maybe growing it from there with his banner. So again, we're still throwing out around ideas and locations. Walkability is a big thing, and I love the idea of being on it being on Ocean Boulevard as well. We're just, I guess, taking this one step at a time, and we have the basics. Just wanted to fill you in and see what you thought.
Love it. Thank you.
Good idea.
they're gonna be start advertising and start generating, because it's November, so that's why we wanted to get this in front of you before we did that.
Yes.
And Meredith's gonna be out for a little bit coming
Yes.
up, so.
Yeah, have a few weeks off. Not totally off, but I won't put it that way. But yeah, so I'll get back with Jeremy and we'll get this going.
All right, thank you, Meredith.
Thanks, man.
I'd like to add just one thing. Yesterday's ceremony, Veterans Day ceremony, with the rain coming and having to move it very quickly over to the Reed Rec Center, Meredith, you did a heck of a good job.
Oh,
I mean, I know, you put a team together, but it was done seamlessly. It was a great event. And kind of unfortunate that 10 minutes after the event was over, the sun came out.
I think before that it did.
Congratulations to you and the entire staff. They did one heck of a good job.
No, I have to give a lot of kudos to Chastity sitting in the audience because she was out there with them and she really wrangled everybody. She was out there in the rain and getting people together to bring back to the General Reed Recreation Center. It wasn't just me, it was a whole team effort, so thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Chastity,
Cassidy, sorry.
but thank you. It was a nice event. Thanks for attending.
Thank you. All right, Will, it's 9:34. Is that enough time to do the executive session item?
I think so.
Well, I need you to know so.
Boy, it's not going to give you an exact answer.
Depends how many questions we
We're going
ask.
to try it anyway. How about that? Okay, we do have one executive session item. So I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice concerning the moratorium ordinance and settlement of litigation involving Highbridge Capital. We will invite Fox Simons, Will Bryan, Brian Tucker, Josh Bruger, Michelle Schumpert, Marla Bell, Meredith Denary, and Amy Newshafer. May I please have a motion? Motion from Dr. Connors, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Chief Joe Hill's proclamation. Whereas Joseph R. Hill, a Cincinnati native, began his law enforcement career when he entered the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Academy Reserve in June 1984 while in the U.S. Navy. And whereas Joseph Hill joined the Fairfax County Police Department in October 1988, serving there for 16 years before making his way to Horry County. And whereas while in Fairfax County, Hill served in many leadership roles that prepared him to one day become Chief of Police, including Assistant Director of Fairfax County's 911 Center, Precinct Commander, Director of the Criminal Justice Academy, and Major of the Administrative Services Bureau. And whereas Joseph R. Hill was appointed Chief of Horry County Police on September 23, 2016, instantly becoming a valued partner and friend to the City of Myrtle Beach and the Myrtle Beach Police Department. And whereas Chief Hill, an FBI National Academy graduate, mentors outside of just the local level, traveling to police and military agencies internationally to instruct counterterrorism with the U.S. State Department's Anti-Terror Assistance Program, ethical leadership, and counter-terror operations. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Myrtle Beach City Council hereby celebrates the accomplished career of Chief Joseph Hill and wishes him the very best in retirement. Signed and sealed this 12th day of November, 2024.
If I may, thank you very much. It's very humbling, and I appreciate the honor. And like you've said many, many times before, it's a team effort, not just with my team from Horry County, but the team of Myrtle Beach and all the surrounding jurisdictions. We, as a team together, has made this place a better place to live, work, and play. And I'm so honored to tell you guys that I'll be staying here, not going back to Virginia like so many people think, but this is my home now because I love this place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
In honor of Steve Gosnell. Whereas born in New Mexico and raised in Wyoming, Steve Gosnell is a University of Wyoming graduate and began his career with the Wyoming Department of Transportation. And whereas Steve Gosnell, an engineer, made his way back to where his father's family was from, Horry County, in 1986 when he accepted a position with the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And whereas Gosnell would work in engineering and consulting for 30 years in the Myrtle Beach area at R.L. Bellamy and Associates and DDC Engineers Incorporated before joining municipal government as an Horry County engineer in 1993. And whereas after 3 years, Gosnell was promoted to Assistant County Administrator and County Engineer, specifically overseeing the Infrastructure and Regulation Division for 23 years, before becoming the Horry County Administrator in 2019. And whereas Gosnell is a proud husband, father of 4 children, and grandfather of 3. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Myrtle Beach hereby recognizes and honors Steve Gosnell for his many years of service and friendship to the City of Myrtle Beach and wishes him well in retirement. Signed and sealed this 12th day of November, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. I'd like to echo what Joe Hill said. It's not about one person. Any success we've had has been because of the team and the great group of professionals I have working for the county and the city has working for you. Thank you for this unexpected honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And don't go anywhere. We're going to come down and get a picture with both of you. And I'm going to ask Chief Prock to come forward as well for the picture with Chief Hill.
Yeah, we're going to do it right here, just not in front of this.
Brenda.
Sorry. Just a little bit more. There you go. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
We're good? We're good on here? We're good? All right. All right, thank you again for being here. And next, we're going to honor George Lack, and then I invite the Lack family to come up. This is more of a somber occasion. Of course, we know George Lack recently passed away, but he had a wonderful life here in Myrtle Beach, and thank you guys for being here to honor him. In honor of George Lack. Whereas 6-year-old George Lack moved with his family to Myrtle Beach in 1956 when his father was transferred to the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base. And whereas George graduated from Myrtle Beach High School in 1969, where he was an active student athlete and established a reputation as someone who wasn't afraid to have a little fun along the way. Thank you, Weston. And whereas while participating in recreational baseball leagues, umpiring youth baseball games, becoming a lifelong member of First Presbyterian Church, and serving on committees and boards throughout his life, George would make his mark in Myrtle Beach when he created Lack's Beach Service in 1974. And whereas Lack's Beach Service became a pioneering lifeguard service in Myrtle Beach and Horry County, forever changing the landscape of beach safety and lifeguarding in the area, with George's invaluable knowledge of the beach, ocean, weather, and importance of keeping people safe. And whereas Lack's Beach Service would grow to become a trusted name in the lifeguarding industry, built by George and more than 50 years of lifeguards from around the world who learned from George's lifeguarding experience, memorable sayings, life lessons, stories, and expertise. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Myrtle Beach City Council hereby recognizes the life well lived by George Lack, a treasured son, father, grandfather, mentor, businessman, and friend. Signed and sealed this 12th day of November, 2024.
Keep it short, George was an amazing person. He was hilarious, and he will always be the best husband, father, and puppy.
Well, you can all know that he was dearly loved by many of us here on council and was considered a dear, dear friend to our families for decades. So thank you all for being here. to? We can? Yes. Certainly can.
Think fit us all in.
Okay, now we will have our public information update, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to start off today with the Myrtle Beach's Veterans Day ceremony. It was at General Robert H. Reed Recreation Center yesterday. U.S. Army veteran Captain Adrian Sawchuk gave the Veterans Address this year and spoke about what it means to serve. The ceremony ended with everyone joining along and singing God Bless America, led by Bull Canty. Public input meetings for the new Vietnam War Memorial design are next week, November 19th and 20th. The public is invited to General Robert Reed Recreation Center to learn about the memorial and provide feedback. The public meeting is from 5 to 7 on November 19th, and the Veterans meeting is from 4 to 6, November 20th. The 2026 residential parking decals are available for pickup. New 2-year parking decals are available to city residents who have personal vehicles that live in city limits. More information on how to register is available on our website. We have a tree update. Phase 2 of the Market Common Tree Project began yesterday. Contractors began installing new trees and root barrier protection on Shine, Johnson, and Murray Avenues and on Cruzel and Poncho Streets. Crews will also replace sod, remove additional roots, fill in holes, and clean up the area. Work should be done by Thanksgiving. The Oceanfront Winter Wonderland lights return to the boardwalk following the Christmas tree lighting ceremony Saturday, November 30th. The tree lighting ceremony is from 5 to 8 in Plyler Park and will kick off the holiday season with jolly performances and a 100% chance of snow. Following the ceremony, everyone is invited to walk along the boardwalk and enjoy the first illumination of the Christmas lights for the season.
Can I just say that the snow is my favorite part?
It's everyone's favorite. It's my favorite part, too. It's beautiful. Troy always does a great job with that. The Neighborhood Services Department is collecting non-perishable food items for Helping Hand of Myrtle Beach. The organization helps the community with short-term needs such as food, rent, utilities, and services. You can drop off items from 9 to 4, Monday through Friday at City Hall. Mr. and Mrs. Claus are coming to the Garden of Hope tree lightings on Sunday, December 1st from 4 to 8. Myrtle Beach Neighborhood Services Department hosts this free annual event featuring live entertainment, hot chocolate, photos of Santa, and more. Registration is open for the second annual Jacob Hansher high-speed 5K run and walk this Saturday, November 16th. The race begins at 9:30 at Tidal Creek. All proceeds from the race go to help fund the Jacob Hansher Memorial Scholarship. Registration information is available on our website. Milling and paving along Seaboard Street begins tomorrow. The section between Mr. Joe White Avenue and 21st Avenue North will be under construction for the next couple weeks. Work is going to be from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The only one lane of traffic will be available during construction. Last but not least, we have our Nights of Knowledge from 6 to 9 this Thursday, November 16th, at Myrtle Beach Middle School. Parents, guardians, school, and community members are invited to learn about resources available to area kids. The event speakers include social services, Horry County schools, and local service providers. Everyone is welcome. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any non-agenda items from the public today?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Move on to the consent agenda.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. For this morning's consent agenda, you have 4 items for your consideration. The first is motion 2024-89, which authorizes the city to accept a grant in the amount of $110,282 from the South Carolina Department of Public Safety for the continuation of the Project Safe Neighborhoods program within the Myrtle Beach Police Department. There is no match, and will support a NIBIN detective. The second item is motion 2024-90, authorizing the city to accept a grant in the amount of $44,325 from the, I'm sorry? Oh, 84, I'm sorry, my eyes are not working. $84,825 from the South Carolina Attorney General for the Violence Against Women's Act. There's a match of $28,275 that's in the Myrtle Beach Police Department to support the hiring of a victim's advocate. The next item is motion 2024-91, authorizing the city to accept a grant in the amount of $300,000 from the South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services, commonly known as DAODAS. There is no match for that for that grant. It'll accept, do a lead program for a diversionary program for drug offenders associated with the Myrtle Beach Police Department. And finally is motion 2024-92, which is an extension of the franchise agreement dated November 13th, 2024, between the Myrtle Beach Convention Center Hotel Corporation and the Sheraton LLC to January 31st, 2025. That extension normally would have expired, I think, the end of this month, and since we don't meet again until December, we needed to do this extension one more time. We are still very close to that agreement. We talked about it last week at our workshop, so we're fine dotting the i's and crossing the t's.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve today's consent agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, motion made for Mr. McClure, second from Mr. Louder. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. First item on our regular agenda is the first reading of ordinance 2024-65.
Proposed development, that schematic. So we're going to have what I call ground level would be a retail component or commercial component, and then 3 additional floors above that.
Yeah, there would be 3 floors of residential living above that, 6 units on each floor.
I got to tell you, that seems like an enormous project for that small plot of land. I go by there every day. Were there any concerns from the Planning Commission about the size of this thing?
Not particularly about the size, no.
Okay. Well, I will, I have a concern about it. I think it's really very big for that piece of land, particularly where it fronts 17 Kings Highway, and the residents behind it, and then you have residents as you're facing the project to the right of it. Just my 2 cents for you.
I'm going to have to say that I share that concern. We're looking at less than 2 acres. I would like to know how the parking was factored into this for both the residents and the commercial use.
Sure, so working with the zoning administrator, the commercial units are all per what the commercial units will be, what they will do as a function of the commercial spaces, and then the residential parking above fit the HC2 schematic for residential parking.
So we already know what the commercial uses are, because isn't parking dictated by what the use is?
I believe that's a question for Mr. Skelly. I believe he does know what all of those uses will be.
I see Charles. I mean, because a restaurant uses more parking than other types of commercial.
That is correct. Based off this plan, the land developer pulled the parking per what we would call highway commercial. In mixed use, you actually get a breakdown, or it's divided in half for that parking. So the plan you see before you today has max parking per our zoning code, and therefore our code would limit what he could have in there over that phase. So if he says, hey, I want a restaurant each one, and we don't have enough parking, our answer would be no. But per use and per that layout, that's what we're working with. So he will have limitations himself.
So they will have to come back to you for each use to make sure that there's enough parking.
Yeah, zoning reviews all business license and use of lot.
This is a situation where I've never been a big fan of since I've been a member of council, is the approachment of commercial use in a residential area. And that's what we're having here, along 50, looks like it along 52nd, and backing up to residential, basically, behind there, and then to the south of it on 52nd itself. Have we heard anything, or have you, any comments from the residents who, have y'all met with them, spoke with them, the residents on 52nd, the folks behind it?
Rather the property owner represent that question. We ran this through planning commission. Did we have any? No one was present.
Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't all of the commercial on Kings Highway, fronting Kings Highway?
Yes, this was always designed to be a mixed-use PUD. In a mixed-use PUD, you're going to have residential and a commercial use. This was that commercial element.
So Kings Highway is our commercial corridor regardless.
Yep.
So there was some language in there that said the planning commission did not want it to revert to MUM if it wasn't developed in a certain time frame. Is MUM the underlying zoning prior to it being in a PUD? Or is it, it's currently in the PUD, right? Or we're adding it to the PUD?
It was always the commercial element. Was it written crystal clear with the PUD? No. But if it were MUM, that design does not work. But on the other hand, other uses and other requests wouldn't work with the design they kind of have right now. That's why this PUD option is the direction that they're looking to go, that we've conversed about. On the other hand, the highway commercial actually puts a higher standard, or what we'll call a higher zoning standard on them. In the MUM, they could go build a building as high as the right-of-way, which would take it up to 100 feet. Highway commercial, they're limited to 60. In the MUM, they could have half the parking. Highway commercial, they have to provide all the parking. So the standards that they're pursuing are a little bit more strict than what the land itself, it were just to be regular MUM.
All right, so that, up there, it says the commercial area is not included at this time and may be brought in the future as a revision at the request of the property owner. So is that area in the PUD right now?
As far as what we're conversing about, that's what they're pulling forward with you today. That was always designed to be the commercial element.
It's in the PUD?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not zoned MUM,
It would be,
but it's not because it's in the PUD?
yes.
Okay.
Because if you look at the surrounding areas across the streets, MUM.
Remind us again what the sunset date would be?
I believe, off the top of my head, I believe it's 2027. It should be located in the text that you have in front of you.
Okay, thanks.
I'd like to ask management and Will, any concerns with the short-term rentals?
I don't think so.
I don't believe it would be. I think this would be purpose-built, short-term rentals. I mean, the moratorium, the conversations we've had along those lines are talking about specifically converting from one thing to another. This would be new purpose-built construction for short-term rentals. So that's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
At what point was this map that is on the screen drafted? Prior to the construction?
Oh, yeah. This is 2014,
So when the houses were
2015?
constructed, it said the is not included at this time, but may be brought in the future. Notifying everyone that it was commercial area.
Yes.
Any other questions from council?
Just going back to the short-term rentals, and again, looking at the neighborhoods that are to the east and the south of this area. Again, any communication with residents there, I mean, if I lived there, I probably would have a problem knowing that I'm people coming every 2, 3, 4 days. In and out, that type of thing. So they consulted with, did they have a chance to give you input? And if so, what was it?
Pursued the normal notifying process that a text amendment, a PUD amendment would go through. And even again, as Charlie said, this is much better represented by the developer. I do believe Mr. Skelly has gone out to the community and talked with folks.
So it's Mr. Skelly that went out.
Yes, sir.
You'd like for him to come?
Is Mr. Skelly here today?
Yes, he's here.
Cameron, what is on the east side of this property? Towards the ocean?
I believe it's a hotel, the Dunes Resort.
Is that short-term or long-term rentals?
I'm not sure.
Short-term.
Good morning, and council people. Thank you for considering this, what we're proposing. If you'd like me to, I've heard some of the concerns, and I can address those if you like. I am the developer of the whole piece of property, Phase 1 and potentially Phase 2. I told every buyer what was going on, that I called it a live-work, something like Market Common, where you have commercial down below and you have residential above. There was no surprise to them. Then when I started this process, gosh, probably a couple months went to planning and zoning, I have all the emails of all the customers, all the homeowners over there. So I emailed the whole package, elevation, site plan, the whole thing, and said, listen, I want to let you know that I'm getting ready to go through the permitting process, and you know, here's the. I don't think they had seen a final rendering. So that was my purpose of sending it, because everybody loves the rendering. I wish you guys could take a look at it. A wonderful addition to the area. I will remind you, as far as being on a residential, you've got La Quinta, just a couple streets down. That's a 200, approximately 200 hotel that's on the corner, same thing, on the corner, residential behind. You know, I think 44th King has residential behind it. I mean, that's just the way Myrtle Beach was set up. And that continues all the way up and down with commercial and then residential behind it. Gosh, what else that I need to address?
Short-term.
Short-term rentals, it only works that way. It doesn't work otherwise. Construction is so high. Some of the people, not all, we've taken non-binding reservations, and I think we've got about 6 on the residential. Of them, 2 are not going to rent, and I think 4 will do some renting. it's not like everybody's going to, only 18 units. I mean, you've got right behind it, you know, with Redcrest Street at La Quinta, you got 200 that are being rented all the time, and you got Queens Village that are being all the time. It's not foreign to the area. This is, you know, within a couple hundred yards of each other. So, you know, listen, if this is not what council wants, if this is not what's good with Myrtle Beach, hey, I'm fine. I'm okay either way. Leaving it up to God. And but it just doesn't work otherwise. There are people that want to get some on their investment.
Could you have the rendering, would you please pass that around so we can have a closer look at the rendering, please? Okay.
Whoever's got this.
Right here, let's just pass it down. Nobody has to. And while we're looking at this, does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Skelly? Or Cam or Charles?
I mean, I don't have a question, but I do have a concern also with the parking. And I know it's gonna be a case by case. I don't want us to be, turn into an absolute mess, kind of like what we've got Brave is, or from, and that little commercial area right there. I mean, that's really a big impact on the residents around there, and frankly, we can't do anything either. And I really hate it for those folks up there that they don't have some relief. So I don't want to see this project come in and create the same type of scenario.
I agree 100%. And so what we've done is on the bottom floor, there's 6 commercial units. They're not big. They're anywhere from 1,400 square feet to, I think the largest is 1,740. So it's not like they're big. We've got sell 3 of them, and I'm going to keep 3. And the 3 that we've got is an assembly place, which is a lot of takeout, a hair salon, and is it a law office? A mortgage company. Mortgage company. Okay, now that's who's buying it. Now that's not to say that they couldn't sell it, and somebody else wants to come in on with a restaurant. We figured on 2 restaurants, which is a lot more than retail or an office. But the safeguard on that is that before it could be a restaurant, it would go back to planning, and they would say, well, there's already restaurants there. It can't be another restaurant. I mean, that will be written right into the deed restrictions, because that either. We have maxed it out. I think it was Brian that said that, or Cameron, to the maximum parking spaces, and then I think we got 6 additional. So, yeah, I mean, that's a nightmare, Dave, and I don't want something like that either. We've done a really good job. Everybody's really happy. Oh, by the way, the feedback that came back when I sent the email out to everybody was how much is it going to be nightly rental, which I told them it was. But there was only just a few people that had any comments that were not negative. Like I say, every time somebody bought, I let them know, because I was the head of the homeowners association, and every time I met with them, I made sure that up.
Mr. Tucker, any concerns from you on this at all? Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have any discussion from the public?
I just have a question. Alex Fogel, city resident. I believe the village, the residents behind it, are those currently providing short-term rentals as well? Because I think that would mitigate some of the concern that they're not. That would concern if I was a resident there.
And that's who Mr. Skelly has reached out to. That's also his development. Thank you. Personally, I'm going to vote on reading of this, but between now and second reading, I want to discuss this parking issue a little bit more. I'm still uncomfortable with this being enough parking. So I'm going to vote for first reading, and that's just me, but I would like to dive a little bit deeper into the parking. I'm going to open it up to a vote. All those in favor for the first reading of ordinance 2024-60, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
I agree. I want to see more about the parking.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for being here today. First reading of ordinance 24-66.
First reading of ordinance 24-66 to amend the Code of Ordinances, the City of Myrtle Beach, Appendix A, Zoning, Article 5, Board of Zoning Appeals, Section 505, Procedures to add new Section 505C, Time Limitations.
Good morning, everyone, again. As we look through the code, because we're doing a rewrite here soon, the passcode and looking at how we maintain our BZA orders, we've always had the language, at least as long as I've been with the city, that we put a time frame of that 6 months. In our prior code, we actually had the verbiage in the zoning code, so this is just reintroducing that. That way, as we work through the rewrite, we start to grab some of those areas that we've missed. One adjustment was to move the 6-month resubmittal to a year to be consistent with other areas of the city, such as council and planning commission. That way, we're all kind of on that same rotation. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-66?
So moved.
Motion from Dr. Connor, second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council?
I've got a question, Charles, just so I understand it clearly. We're creating 505.C because somewhere along the line, I don't know whether it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but almost identical, not identical, but almost identical language was in section 504.3, time limitations. So as I understand it, somewhere along the line, that just got dropped out.
Correct.
And so how long has it been? A year, 2 years, just a general estimate.
Sure. 2014 is when the current zoning ordinance was written.
Right.
That zoning ordinance was probably worked on, Mike would be kind of, both Mikes would kind of have an idea. That thing was worked probably 2010 is kind of when they started reworking that. That transfer, and the zoning code that we had then to what we have now, it's a different format, and
Right.
some of that stuff dropped out.
Right.
But we've always maintained that on all the BZA orders. If you ever look at the green sheet, you're going to see, hey, if you don't have your permit pulled by this date, it's null and void. Basically, we're just reintroducing an ordinance. That way we actually have it in print. That way it's not all based off of that one order, so it's clear to everyone.
Okay, so at one point in time, it was in the ordinance.
Yes.
As the city went through and did all the redos, and I understand.
I call it prior code.
Yeah,
It was in it.
it gets complicated too, and you're dealing with a lot of different things. But it originally, in section 504, it existed for a period of time. As we worked on changing things, it somehow just dropped out, basically. Is that my understanding?
That is my assumption. I mean, I
Okay,
would say
it
it's
just
previous
dropped
to
out.
me, but that's why we're doing that review now
Right.
to compare codes.
The other thing that I noticed in the, and I did notice that you went from 6 months to 12 months.
Yes, sir.
So that everybody's in community. Good idea. But it also talks about in the new language, which I didn't find in the old language, if a completed permit application or subdivision application, the or subdivision application doesn't seem to be in the old language. Was that just added for clarification, or what was the thinking behind that?
Sure. Someone could actually request a reduction on a subdivision. So let's say standard lot might be 60 feet. They might only have 59. That's where they would request that variance. If they didn't, at that point, pull a permit or needed to take place, That way that subdivision we null and void. The direction of code is not to create nonconformities. So like doing a variance, you kind of are creating a nonconformity. It's based off of hardship. So it helps us eliminate future nonconformities by having that extra line in there, such as subdivision. That covers the whole scope.
Okay, great, thank you, appreciate it.
Great explanation, thank you.
Good seeing you.
Any other comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, I do like item 1 in here about the deadline. When the Board of Zoning Appeal approves a special exception or whatever, that there's a deadline coming that, okay, after, if you have by this time, boom, it's no longer exists. And I think that is a true step in the right direction for how many times, Jackie, you and I both know, at the time we, Board of Zoning Appeals, something would be approved like this, and it just went on for infinity, and it could just be never, never, never. And this is kind of along the same lines that I look at as far as having sunset clauses on PUD. This is the same thing.
Exactly.
And I think this is a good, really good ordinance here to pass.
I appreciate it.
I support it 100%.
Okay, is there any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. First reading of ordinance 2024-67.
First reading of ordinance 2024-67 to amend ordinance number 2023-26, the 2023-24 budget ordinance, recognizing material events and their impacts upon the 2023-24 budget, and reconciling budgets with audited results.
All right, good morning. This is the presentation that we went through last week when I talked to you about the changes that sometimes occur throughout the year between the time we actually create the budget and when we get our final numbers. We all know that when we are estimating our revenues and expenditures, we don't have all the information. It is a plan, it is a budget. So at year end, we come to you with any of those variances. The variances that we are going to talk about this year included shoring up fund balances in the Victims Advocate Fund, the Convention Center, and Sports Tourism, moving the South Carolina Opioid Recovery Fund out of the general fund and putting it into its own special fund, recognizing the fact that we had more TDF credit to distribute than what we originally budgeted, that the parking utility had more money coming in, revenues coming in, and then had corresponding additional expenditures that were offset with those. And as well, we asked that we appropriate $1.2 million for the RHRA catch-up fund, and that we ask that council allow us to appropriate $1.4 million for the city services annex renovation. When we talked about those things, we also talked about the fact that doing this will allow us to maintain an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of 26%. That's slightly above the 25% that we always strive for. That gives us a little bit more security in an area that faces so many various threats, really, from either natural disasters or economic downturn. We also discussed the fact that in the hospitality fund, that the fund balance we have there will cover 95.2% of the expenditures we have slated for FY25, again providing us that protection in the event that there is any disruption in that revenue flow. When we talked about the city services building and the annex, I also looked at that and told you guys that that is 4.8% of the cost of replacing that building, because after we went in and looked at what we have there, we recognized that we're able to expand it for capacity and the life by 15 to 20 years.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-67?
Motion to approve.
Motion made for Mr. Trotter, second for Mr. McClure. Any discussion or questions from council?
So explain the city services thing. We're going to spend $1.2 million on the city services building,
In total, it's just short of 5 million.
1.2 additional.
That's a roof, the city services annex building roof and everything that will allow, that equates to 4.8% of what it would cost to replace it. The estimated cost to replace it 4 years ago was $66.3 million.
So we were considering planning to build a completely new building for $66 million, which would probably cost $100 million now. And we're gonna save this building and spend $5 million on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Expand both our capacity and the life.
Are you good with that?
I'm good with it.
Me too.
Just point it out.
I'm glad you did.
That's a no-brainer.
Good point.
Any other discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. First reading of ordinance 2024-68.
First reading of ordinance 2024-68 to extend a temporary moratorium established by ordinance 2024-27.
Yes, I'll take this one. We call back in April, we passed a moratorium on conversion from short-term to long-term. That moratorium expires January 4th, 2025. The ordinance, there's a ordinance going through the process with the Planning Commission now, but we felt that this extension for 60 days, which would take it, I think, to February, beginning of February 25, if passed, is a sort of an insurance purpose. If there's any slip up in the process between now and the end of the year, we would need an extension, and we only have one meeting left after this year. So this may not see second reading. We'll see what happens at the Planning Commission next week. But if it does, we need 2 readings, so we would need to do a little jockeying. So this is just an insurance measure.
All right. Is there a motion for approval for the first reading of ordinance 2024-68?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2024-93.
Motion 2024-93 to declare certain vehicles abandoned or derelict pursuant to the authority of Article 41 of Title 56, South Carolina Code of Laws, 2001.
Okay, and these vehicles will hopefully be on the screen, and maybe not. Okay, well, if anybody has a question about any of these vehicles, you can see someone on staff. I'll ask for a motion to approve motion 2093.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have any non-agenda items from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any communications from council or staff?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. The past 2 days, Sunday and Monday, have been really dear to my heart. One, and I would be remiss in not saying that to all the brothers and sisters that served in the Marine Corps that I didn't get to speak with Sunday, happy 249th birthday to the United States Marine Corps.
Hoorah!
And also, yesterday, all over this country, there were just so many events that took place honoring our veterans. You know, something stood out to me yesterday at an event that I was at. The 11th month, the 11th day, and the 11th hour. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I personally want to thank all the veterans who have served and those that have served now around this world. We would not be where we are if it wasn't for those who signed that dotted line and wrote a blank check that day. And thank you so much for your service.
Thank you for your service. And yesterday, I just want to reiterate, was a beautiful ceremony, even with the last-minute change. We had a packed house. And just a reminder, let's not just thank and recognize and honor our veterans on Veterans Day. Let's do it every day. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.